Hey YouTube, thank you for joining. I'm Cameron Ponce, and today I'm going to try to explain why I like the CIA and why I trust the CIA. Ultimately, I think it boils down to that saying, honor amongst thieves. Now, I think that saying is often misconstrued. I think a lot of people usually take it to mean like a thief won't steal from another thief. And maybe that's true. Usually, most of the time, why not just pick a non-thief? But I think really that's saying, you're amongst thieves. So amongst means like surrounded by. So if I'm in a hospital, I'm amongst doctors, I'm amongst patients, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a patient or that I'm a doctor. So I do want to clarify, I'm an economist and an entrepreneur, so I'm not saying I'm a thief. And most of my friends are doctors or nurses or entrepreneurs or people that are in the military, upstanding citizens. So I'm not saying that they're thieves either. But some of my friends, I do have friends that are thieves, whether that be like minor, just steal your charger or just like steal something from the store. I do have those friends. And I do have friends that, are drug dealers and whatever, as long as they're not selling fentanyl to people, that's not my business. But basically, I think there's a difference between what you surround yourself with and what you subject yourself with. So, for example, I promise this ties in, but so for example, if you go rock climbing one time, then your hands are going to get blisters on them, right? But if you go, they'll heal, pretty fast. But if you go rock climbing every day of the year, then your hands are going to get pretty rough, right? So I think that's the same kind of thing with people and your personality and who you surround yourself with or subject yourself with. An example, the day by day basis, just once in a while. So like if you hang out with your friends every weekend and you don't smoke weed, but they like to smoke a blunt on Saturday night and you're there, then that's probably not gonna compromise your moral compass. You can probably just say, no, I don't want to smoke. And they'll be like, all right, cool, more for us. But if you hang out with complete potheads, nothing wrong with potheads, but if you hang out with potheads and they just all day, all day they're smoking, every day they're smoking, then eventually there's an excellent chance that you are going to end up smoking. Even if it's just once to try it and you decide you don't like it, there's an incredible chance that you are going to smoke. So I think there's a big difference there. And so I got, again, this will tie in, but I got robbed in high school, and I learned later that it was actually one of my friends that set me up, and I got robbed at gunpoint. It was a whole deal. And so a few years later after I learned, or a year or two later after I learned that it was him that set me up, we were at the same party. I think I was back home visiting from college. I think he probably was too. We were about the same age. But anyways, we were at the same party, and basically we ended up smoking a blunt together, and he admitted that he set me up. And I already knew that he set me up, but I didn't want to like call him on it. And so he admitted it to me, and he apologized, and we were good from there on out. And he knew that I didn't press charges, and so I'm not a snitch, and he gained my respect. And I knew that he owned up to it and was sorry about it, and he wouldn't rob me again. And so he kind of gained my respect. We're not like best friends, but yeah, if I see him around, I'll talk to him, I'll hang out with him. I know he's not gonna rob me. So we got that going for me. For us. And I also at a different party, I happened to run into the guy that actually pulled the gun on me, and he apologized to me, and he was like, obviously I can't make up, for what I did, but he pulled out his wallet, and he like had a 20 in his wallet, and he gave me the 20. He's like, I'm sorry, man. I was like, you know what? Yeah, okay. So with the CIA, I think they kind of align with that kind of thing. So if like cops, when they, if they beat someone or use excessive force or have a phony arrest and they like plant drugs or something, they will never admit that. They never admit that stuff. They're just like, nope, wasn't me. And their department is like, whoa, no way. That's impossible. That's our boy. We trained him. We taught him everything he knows. So if we wouldn't do that, he wouldn't do that. Impossible. And that's the same kind of way that the FBI is in the DEA. But the CIA, they have committed some heinous crimes, and like introducing crack, arming, uprisings and whatnot, spying on us through our electronics, just all kinds of things. And whenever they get exposed, they're just like, we did that. Like they admit that they did that. They're like, yeah, we definitely did that. And so I think that that's where I'm saying there's, honor amongst thieves. I'm not necessarily calling them thieves. I'm sure there are probably some operations that included a little bit of theft, but I'm saying, just criminals, honor amongst criminals. I think, to loosely quote Batman, sometimes you have to become the villain in order to stop the villain, or you have to think like the villain to stop the villain, So I think the CIA is like, I will be your hero by being the villain to these other villains. And so, I think that's within its own right honorable, and I trust that. If, let's just say, like a wild example, if I was like being hunted by the mob or something, and the FBI came to me and they were like, we'll offer you protection, and the CIA came to me and was like, we'll offer you protection, I would choose the CIA in a heartbeat. It wouldn't even be a discussion. It wouldn't be a decision that I have to make. It's already been made, because the CIA can disappear me, hopefully in a good way. They could probably embed me in that very mob that was hunting me, or that, in this scenario, that was hunting me, and they probably wouldn't even notice. I could, I'd just change my identity, get a, fake identity, get a new place, get all kinds of stuff, a passport, and I would be set for life and, out of harm's way. And, yeah, they have the power to do that because they're not afraid to admit, like, we'll break some laws here and there. And so I think, yeah, there's honor amongst criminals. And so with the CIA admitting that they occasionally partake in some criminal activity, I think there's honor in that. And I trust that over the guy that definitely commits criminal activity and says, no, I would never do that kind of thing. So that's just my take on it. I hope you guys found some insight, but you're free to have your own opinions, obviously. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you think. Let me know your opinion. Do you trust the CIA or not? And if not, is there a branch of government that you do trust? I would be curious to know that. But thank you for watching, and have a good one.